let me put it into perspective for you guys. Let me put it into perspective. Because I really should have just live reaction this episode, because upon the return of my best girl, I get to see my girl again. Upon the return of my best girl, my reaction for that entire final scene was straight up mirroring KANBARU'S, who had those GOAT illustrations in this episode, but I digress. I'll get back to that in a second. That giddy, ridiculous grin she had on her face, bouncing up and down, utterly captivated by the kawaii vibes that bleed from my best girl. Okay, and we know that she has this infatuation with Shinobu from the past. Ever since she met Shinobu in Bake, she's been obsessed with her looks. It's almost you know, those kind of rotten girl vibes, those Fujoshi vibes that emanate from my girl KANBARU. But upon the return of Kiss Shot ACEROLA-ORION Hot Underblade, aka Shinobu Oshino, aka my personal best girl of the Monogatari series, I was done. I was fanboying like crazy. I've been waiting for this for so long, dude, and shit's about to go in. This episode was beautiful to me, and even though it was a very laid-back episode from the beginning with the Ononoki dialogue, which was incredible, and foot fetish people were serviced heavily. I mean, I don't go for that. It was just nice to have the Ononoki dialogue for me, because that shit, yo, it's good. The dialogue between Ononoki and Araragi, and there was a hidden, you know, message kind of interwoven in there when, you know, YOTSUGI was dropping straight knowledge and wisdom on Araragi and what his next move should be, where I'm just like, yo, based Nisio is the only thing I will say is there was a little mistake on Shaft's part, where after she removed the knee socks and you know, her boot and everything like that, and was straight up stepping on Araragi's face with that fucking voice, which my girl Shinobu of course calls him out on, has the footprint on his face the whole time. Even KANBARU was looking at it, but when she does it, lifting up her skirt ever so gently and dropping the knowledge on them, and I'm just like, yo, Nisio sensei, what he wove in there and how it goes back to, you know, Ougi, which I'm going to get to. I finally have a little bit of Ougi theory crafting from even this, to add to the build-up that we got previously in Owari, but I guess that scene was amazing. Then we had, you know, we got to hear from GAEN, dude. Yo, just hearing that laugh, the words, I know everything, and this little teasing of the various, you know, kais and oddities and apparitions that Araragi came, you know, across back in Bake, the original 5, and what's going on with this oddity that's been chasing after Shinobu, and that her and one of my other favorite girls, that she's Black Hanakawa, went up against. I'm just like, yo, and I want to know how this ties into, you know, Shinobu's former, you know, vampire slave, who we saw in the armor, who's after Koko Watari and everything like that. So, Owarimonogatari, episode 8. Yo, dude, I'm done. First of all, I have to say this right now. How many people were in line with me? Because I had to pause both times and just admire those illustrations where KANBARU'S like, whenever you ask for my help, my answer will be, eat up, dude. And you see these good illustrations of KANBARU. I was done. I was like, oh my god. The first thing that popped in my mind, I was like, Itadakimasu. I was like, let's go, man. I had to save this. You already know I have this. But I guess that shit was amazing. KANBARU in this episode, yet again, just coming off of last week. This is why I love it. That's why she's baby. That's why she's absolutely incredible. The dialogue on point, just her mannerisms, the movement, her stretching in the background during the conversation with GAEN, her reaction to my best girl's return. It was on point, and I absolutely love KANBARU in these past 2 episodes, dude. It's just so nice to have her back. So finally, and then now we're back with Shinobu, dude. The fucking caca laugh, dude. Yo, I love her so much, man. I absolutely love her. Did you hear what she said to Araragi? She's like, I would rip that patch of skin straight off your face if it wasn't for the fact that Ononoki saved you this time and just saved me with Unlimited Rulebook, which I wish we could have seen that scene, dude. I really wish we could have seen that scene, but it's fine because we're finally about to get our first real fight in Owari, dude. Shit from last week with KANBARU going in against the suit of armor does not count, okay? Now, against this half monkey, half crab oddity that has appeared before them, which I have no idea what's going on with this. I have no idea how it links to, you know, my girl Shinobu's former slave and everything like that, and what GAEN exactly knows about what's going on. But of course GAEN knows everything. I can't wait to meet up with GAEN in the next episode. We just got minor glimpses of the realist woman in the series. But I I can't see how it ties together unless this is just straight up a distraction, a test, or something that's being orchestrated by Shinobu's former slave. But regardless of this idea and everything like that, the setup of the episode, the pacing, and everything was just, it was on point, man. It was absolutely on point. The one thing I forgot to mention in last week's episode, because I'm loving the ties and the little things that we keep seeing in terms of where we are in the timeline, with this taking place right alongside the events of Tsubasa Tiger, and from Black Hanakawa aiding Shinobu to GAEN and her quest and everything like that. And I remembered it. I finally, it was thanks to something, chaotic. I think you said in the comments last week, which I completely blanked out about last week, when GAEN confronted, Hanakawa during Tsubasa Tiger, during, Nekomonogatari Shiro, she, an episode rolled through, man. That means that episode, because I remember she contracted episode, it just all came back to me. That means that during this arc, we are going to see episode, man. And the thing about episode is that if you haven't read Kizu, and then episode, all you really know of episode is that introduction in Shiro, but episode, I can't wait to see him, dude. I can't wait to meet up with GAEN and have this story unfold and dive into, more of Shinobu's past, who is finally understanding the whole thing after the link has been severed with the darkness and the events and what happened with the Black Orb and everything like that, and coming to terms with it. But episode on point. I don't really want to go. This isn't really an in-depth review this week. I just had to get my reaction out there. Just fanboy over the fact that Shinobu is back in my life, dude. I can't wait. And granted, it was only the last bit of the episode, and I can't wait to see more of her next week, dude. I'm fiending. I need that greatness, dude. And I'm gonna get my fix because Kizu novel is being dropped. I'm gonna reread it. It's gonna be a good time to finally reread Kizu. It's been a long time since I've read Kizu. If you didn't know, Kizu is getting an English print. I highly recommend it. If you're a Monogatari fanboy like me, I highly recommend. You've never read Kizu, even if you have, I highly recommend you pick up this release. But aside from that, those illustrations with Kanbaru are good, dude. I was straight up like, yo, let me get you. I want her to say those words to me, man. I really want her to say those words to me. But before I close this video out, because that was just all my reaction, my thoughts on where we're at. I didn't want to go too in depth. Visuals were on point. The animation was a little bit on the downside in terms of Shaft's standard, and with that derp that they had with YOTSUGI and everything like that. But most of the illustrations were on point, sexy as fuck, especially those Kanbaru ones, and my girl Shinobu's faces and everything like that. But aside from that, man, I know they're saving budget for next week and the beginning, which the fight's probably only going to be like 2 minutes tops, at the very most. But it's going to go in, dude. I love Monogatari fights. It's not the best thing about the series, but every time I see them, I'm just like, yo, let's go, man. So I really can't wait to play that. Before I close out on this, I want to get into a little bit of Ougi, theory crafting, and going back to everything that was built up in the Sadachi arcs and Ougi format and everything like that with Euler's identity, and how that ties to the words that Ononoki said now. Because for those of you that are still confused on the timeline, I've said it in the past videos, like I just said before, this takes place at the same time as Tsubasa Tiger. This is 2 months prior to the last 3 arcs that we just saw, from Owari. So everything that's transpiring now, this is far before Tsuki and everything like that, before the events that we saw in Tsuki earlier this year. So this interaction between Araragi and YOTSUGI is coming off of the interactions that they had in Nisei. Okay, now when she says to him, when she's straight dominating him with her foot on his face, and she's talking about, how Araragi is under this false kind of notion that, he can restart his life whenever he wishes, that the positives and negatives of life balance each other out in the end, and that, no matter how late he is to start, he won't, he'll still be on time, no matter how careless he is, he'll find the means to get by. And Aragi's always operated on this, and we know this about him, and that is one of his motives. That's why he's the individual that takes hits after hits, and that's how he solves this problem. He gets wrecked and talks people down. That's how Araragi operates, right? And she straight tells him the positives and negatives of life, of course, balance out in death. everything, you know, the pluses and minuses of death, the scales balance out to 0, and that's where you're headed if you keep operating under this assumption. And he was even about to send Kanbaru back home and everything like that. But those words to me, man, instantly, I'm just like, Nisio, I see what you did there, tying it back to Euler's identity and everything like that, making sense that this is actually taking place during the Owarimonogatari novels, and this is apt to give us that kind of foreshadowing, even though it's earlier in the timeline and everything like that, and into Ougi's nature. And I already discussed, everybody knows what I think Ougi, you know, the true origin of Ougi is and everything like that, the potential ties to the darkness, being an oddity formed of Araragi's subconscious and everything like that, and going into Ougi's endgame and the stuff that I've speculated about before, this kind of dialogue where the scales balance out and everything returns to 0 in death, and the endgame that Ougi is trying to pursue in terms of the traffic light discussion and everything I said, even adds further significance into it, and into Ougi's relation with Araragi and what could potentially happen in the conclusion and end of the final battles of the series when the final boss finally comes to the foray and to the forefront, and Ougi truly reveals herself and her true nature is revealed and everything like that. So I just like that piece of dialogue, man. It really got me. It just really shows me every time how masterful Nisio is in this, man. But anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. I cannot wait to see my crew go in next week against this audience to see more of that Shinobu greatness, get GAEN involved, and if we see episode next week, oh, I'm done, because I can't believe I forgot the episode is on scene at this point in time, which means we're gonna see him this arc, dude. Yo, let's go, man. So, anyway, and don't forget to pick up Kizu this week. But anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on this episode of Owarimonogatari, and I'm out. Peace.